In the year 728, half-drowned foreigners stood before the court of Japan. Storms had scattered their ships, violence on a strange coast had killed many of them, but they had kept safe a letter from their king declaring that his state had recovered the lost land of Goguryeo. Japan's own records call them what that implied, envoys of Goguryeo. One problem: Goguryeo had been wiped off the map 60 years earlier, its capital burned, its people deported. Who sends letters in the name of a dead kingdom? Last episode ended with a light in the northern dark and a name, Balhae. 2 episodes ago we made a promise. Goguryeo didn't end, it moved. This is that story. It turns on a question empires keep getting wrong. Can you actually kill a kingdom, burn its capital, deport its people? Tang did both. Watch what happened anyway. When Goguryeo fell in 668, Tang made the death thorough. A reported 200,000 people marched into the empire, scattered so it could never reform. One stream ended up at Dengzhou, a garrison town on the northeastern frontier. Among them, the Goguryeo leader, Goguryeo-descended, and his son. Remember the son. For nearly 30 years they lived there under Tang rule, beside other uprooted peoples, Mohe tribesmen of the old Goguryeo North and Khitan horsemen. A generation grew old in exile. Then in 696, the Khitan lit a fire. Pushed past endurance by a commandant who refused famine relief, the chieftain Li Jinjiang rose and seized Dengzhou itself. The frontier collapsed into war, and the exiles saw the thing empires dread most, an open door. Keep your eye on the Khitan. They open this story, one day they will close it. 2 leaders gathered their peoples and ran east toward the Goguryeo homeland. Goguryeo-descended leading the exiles, the chief Goguryeo, the Mohe. The Empress Wu Zetian reportedly tried appeasement. Titles offered mid-flight, refused, so she sent an army under Li Kaigu, a captured Khitan rebel turned Tang general, to run them down. On that road both old leaders died, Goguryeo in the fighting, Goguryeo-descended of illness or in battle. The accounts differ. Everything fell to the son, Dae Joyeong. He led a refugee column with an army on its heels. What he did next made a kingdom, at a pass called Tianmenling, Heaven's Gate Ridge. No one today is sure exactly where. He stopped running, he put fighters in the high ground, let the pursuit come, and destroyed it. The records savor it. Li Kaigu escaped with barely his life. The hunt was over. A refugee column had just turned at a single mountain pass into the founders of a state. In 698, the conventional date, at a fortress called Dengzhou, Dae Joyeong declared a state, Jin, its ruling families, Goguryeo, most of its people Mohe. A mixed nation, no one disputes it. And as Korea's National Institute of History puts it, Goguryeo people held the initiative. The founder himself wears 2 labels. Chinese court histories, a Mohe of a Goguryeo branch, Korean tradition, a Goguryeo general. Here our refrain returns, defeated and then rebuilt. Not a city this time, not a dynasty. A kingdom 30 years dead, rebuilt by its own exiles. The new state moved fast, envoys to the Eastern Turks and to Silla, which granted its king a court rank, cordial for now. In 713, Tang itself arrived, not with an army but with paper, investing Dae Joyeong as prince of the commandery of Balhae. From that page comes the name we keep, Balhae. A commandery, a prince. You've seen this filing system before, on Tang's paper a ledger entry. In its own halls, Balhae dated documents by its king's own era names. A sovereign's signature. Titles were diplomatic grammar, not submission. Dae Joyeong died in 719, remembered as King Go. His son Dae Muya took the throne. King Mu, the martial king with an era name of his own. Inan, then Tang made a move small on paper, lethal on a map. It took the Blackwater Mohe, the tribes at Balhae's back, under direct imperial administration. From the throne it looked like a pincer closing. King Mu chose to strike first. He handed the command to his brother, Dae Mohe. The brother said no. Mohe had lived at the Tang court as a hostage prince. He knew the empire's scale. His argument, preserved in the record, is a shudder of memory. Balhae is weaker than Goguryeo at its height. Goguryeo defied Tang, and Goguryeo is gone. Threatened with death, he fled to Tang, which sheltered him, gave him a generalship, and lied about where it kept him. A border crisis was now a blood feud. Now count King Emu's walls. Tang hostile, holding his brother. Silla cool to the south. Tang's clients behind. He looked across the sea. And there is our opening scene. In 727 he sent the storm-battered mission you saw, carrying the letter you heard. We have recovered the lost land of Goguryeo, and inherited the old traditions of Buyeo. Read it twice. Identity and strategy. Japan's court understood. Its documents simply filed the visitors as Goguryeo envoys. Then, in the 9th month of 732, King Mu did what no Korean state has done before or since. He sent a war fleet across the open sea at Tang itself. His general Jang Moon-hyu landed at Dengzhou, the empire's gateway port, the same harbor where Sui and Tang had staged invasion fleets against Goguryeo. Balhae's troops stormed the port, killed the prefect Wei Jun, and were over the horizon before the relief arrived. This kingdom could reach the empire at home. Tang's answer was cold and personal. A command for the exiled brother against his own homeland, and a call to Silla, whose army marched north in winter 733, led by grandsons of Kim Yusin, the general from last episode. The mountains did the fighting. Deep snow buried the roads, and by the chronicles' count more than half the soldiers never came home. Within a few years exhaustion ended it. Detainees exchanged, envoys resumed. The empire had tried to coerce the resurrected kingdom and failed. King Mu died in 737. The question of survival answered. His son Dae Joyeong, King Moon, the cultured king, would reign 56 years. The father proved what Balhae could withstand. The son would decide what it was for. King Moon built a central government on the Tang template, 3 chancelleries, 6 ministries. But look at the ministries' names. Tang named its 6 for functions, personnel, revenue, war. Balhae named its 6 for Confucian virtues, loyalty, benevolence, righteousness, wisdom, propriety, faith, not copying, translation with a signature. A national academy trained officials. Buddhism flourished. Silla borrowed like this. So did Japan. It made Balhae Tang's neighbor, not Tang's province. He raised a capital to match. Sangjiang, the upper capital. A grid city 1/5 the size of Tang's Chang'an. Nearly 5 kilometers of wall on its long side. 5 palaces, a great central avenue. And under the palace floors archaeologists found something Chang'an never had. Ondal, Goguryeo-'s underfloor heating, built into the bones of the new kingdom. A Tang-shaped city, warmed the Goguryeo way. This identity comes with receipts. Its founding leadership, Goguryeo. Its palace floors, Goguryeo. Its king's letters to Japan. King Moon signed himself King of Goguryeo, Goguryeo-'s own name. Japan's records and wooden tablets dug from the earth at Nara answer Goguryeo envoys. A letter attributed to a famous Silla scholar says it in 5 words. Goguryeo is now Balhae, and a princess's tomb, opened in 1980, calls her father one thing more, His Imperial Majesty. Honesty asks 2 footnotes. Balhae was multi-ethnic, a Goguryeo-descended ruling house over a Mohe majority, and scholars are careful with its labels. And today this history carries a political edge. China's state historiography classes Balhae as a local regime of the Tang. Mainstream scholarship in Korea and most of the world does not. We won't argue the politics. The period's own documents can speak for themselves. In time, Tang updated the paperwork. In 762 the title was re-inked, no longer Prince of a Commandery, but King of the state of Bohai. King Moon died in 793, outliving his heir. A quarter-century of churn followed. 6 rulers, frontier tribes slipping loose. Kingdoms have died of less. This one didn't. In 818, from a branch line of the founding house came Balhae's strongest king. Dae-in-su, King Son, was a 4th-generation descendant of the founder's younger brother. He ended the churn and pushed the frontiers farther than ever, north and east, toward the Amur River basin, subduing at last the Blackwater Mohe, the tribes whose defection had once closed a pincer on this kingdom. The exact borders are only approximately known, but under King Son, Balhae stood at its greatest extent. Manchuria, the northern Korean peninsula, today's Russian Far East. His machine, 5 capitals, 15 provinces, 62 counties, completed, most scholars say, in his reign or just after. Trade ran in every direction. The sea route to Japan, embassy after embassy, and overland road to Silla, 39 way stations long. Cool neighbors. But the road was real, and Balhae's students sat the Tang court's guest examination, reserved for candidates from foreign states. Tang's own paperwork filed Balhae's people under another country. The verdict sits in the last place you'd expect. Tang's own history books. The new Book of Tang records the name its historians came to use for 9th century Balhae, Haedong Sunguk, the flourishing land east of the sea. A hunted refugee column had crossed Manchuria with an army behind it. 130 years later, that empire's historians wrote the survivor's state down as the flourishing country. Defeated and then rebuilt. This time the refrain isn't ours, it's notarized by the other side. After 830, the record thins. Balhae left almost no chronicles of its own. Its story survives in other archives. Letters in Japan, epitaphs in tombs, entries in Tang histories. 800 years later, the Joseon scholar Yu Duk-gong wrote the missing book, and named the age, the northern and southern states, Silla south, Balhae north, and in the west something moved. The Khitan, whose rebellion once opened the door for Balhae's founders, were uniting under an emperor. In the winter of 926, all of this would vanish in weeks. That story belongs to a coming episode. And where we began, tablets in the earth at Nara, a dead kingdom's name, waiting 13 centuries for a trowel. Can an empire kill a kingdom? Tang erased Goguryeo. 30 years later, its exiles carried the name back sewn into their letters. The name outlived Balhae too. While the north flourished, the south began to crack, and from the wreckage rose a new state that took as its name the very word on these tablets, Goryeo. Traders carried the word west, and the world learned to say it, Korea. Next time, the south breaks apart, rebel kingdoms, resurrected names. The peninsula remade. This was episode 7 of Untold Korea. Subscribe.